Hello and welcome to another episode of The Rest is Entertainment with me, Marina Hyde.
And me, Richard Osman. How has your week been thus far, Marina?
It's been fantastic, but all I want to ask is, how is your new kitten settling in?
Do you know what? She's settling in okay. Lottie, we got her from the RSPCA in Brighton. She has not stopped purring since the second we got her home. Oh, she's got a lot of energy. I will give her that. She and Liesel have yet to meet face to face. They're currently behind a sort of screen.
Are they aware of each other's existence?
Oh, very much. They are very much circling each other like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in Heat. And when I say in Heat, I mean the film Heat, not that. That's an unfortunate reference in terms of cats. Yeah. Exactly, but more next week when they've actually met face to face. I think it's going to be okay. I trust Liesel, and Lottie. You can tell just wants to hang out with Liesel. It's all she wants to do, and Liesel's a bit more. Oh my god! Okay, come on.
Is Lottie the Scrappy Doo of this franchise?
Do you know what? How dare you?
The franchise killer, the genre killer.
If Lottie breaks the franchise, that's imagine like Lottie just breaks the whole Rest is Entertainment brand.
No,
I don't think it's going to happen. I think if anything, she's going to add.
Well, that's a cliffhanger, and I will be checking in on this next week.
Shall we start with Twitter/X?
Yeah, which we're going to call Twitter throughout this conversation,
yes,
probably, because I don't care.
So lots of people in the last couple of weeks have said enough is enough, and the disinformation which is rife on the channel and the sort of general negativity has got to an awful lot of people, and people have finally made that jump. Some people did it the second he bought it. Some people went last year, and some people are saying this is the time I go to Threads or Blue Sky, or maybe you don't even need to be on social media. So lots of people have left. I have stayed. You are no longer a presence really on the twits.
A huge amount of me feels like I can't even rationally talk about this. It's one of the things that social media has done has made everyone this sort of pooterish character who feels. Don't forget, there was a long time on Twitter where people would say things like, "I won't be posting here for a week because I'm going on holiday." Yeah, it's fine. Just don't post.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell everyone what you're doing.
Yeah. Because by the way, I've got like hundreds of people tweeting all the time, so it's not just me looking at your tweets going, and listen, where's John?
I mean, there was one person I saw this week. He's got quite a big following, saying that Twitter's now like Paris under the Nazi occupation. So some are collaborating. So in complete seriousness, some are refusing to give up the city. Some are fighting for liberation. It's just like, oh my God, have a day off from taking yourself this seriously.
So I'll tell you what I'm doing.
What?
I'm being Renee from Hello Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Friendly on the surface, but helping British airmen in the attic.
It's just a social media platform. To have as much of people's identity as it seems to be tied up with how it fares, whether it says, in which case you've sort of ceded control of a part of your identity to one of a number of weirdo billionaires who own these platforms, who are just generally quite bad people, I think.
I think lots of people have left and saying it's become, very difficult to navigate with the amount of hate. I personally don't see it because I've never used Twitter for my political discourse. Call me weird. I just, right from the start, I thought, I'm not sure if this is the place for me. So it's useful for links and what have you. So if there's newspaper things, there's always interesting articles. But I'm not going to start engaging about the state of the world on Twitter. That isn't the place to do it. And by the way, the whole of the world is not engaging with the world on Twitter. There's nothing political ever gets changed in this country on Twitter. Around the world it does, which is why Twitter is banned in Iran and China, and it's just been banned in Venezuela and things like that. So it's
Twitter's, look at the places it's banned. And then think whether you want it banned in the UK. China, Russia, Turkmenistan, Iran, Pakistan, as I say, currently banned in Venezuela for 10 days.
So I don't use it for political discourse. It's a terrible place for that. And what the far right does and has always done, look, you can see from the riots, there's a very small amount of them. What they're very clever at doing is using something like Twitter to leverage the amount of noise that they make. And the main way they leverage that is by people responding to them, quote tweeting them, telling them they're thick, all that stuff. And they know they're doing. That's the game they've always been playing. And Twitter has always been like that, which is why I've never gone anywhere near political Twitter, because you can see in real time it's being used. So the political side of it is less interesting to me. What I think is interesting is Twitter for quite a long time was an incredibly useful place for new creative voices to be heard.
I agree with that.
And for, illustrators, joke writers, all sorts of things, people to be able to put this stuff out there, to be amplified, to make a living. We used to look for writers on Twitter. You get people who would never dream of being a joke writer or sending stuff into a TV company. And you just go, but you're really funny. Why don't you come in for a day and sit in a writer's room? And that's a great thing. It used to be a great marketplace. Now, the algorithm, I think, definitely has changed in that regard. It's much harder to share your stuff. It's much harder to sell your stuff. It's much harder to share a Patreon or any of these ways that creative people make money. And that has genuinely been, I think, a real wrench for a lot of critics. So the people I genuinely feel sorry for are the creative people who've been able to make quite a nice living by just showing people how good they are and selling things to those people directly or getting jobs directly.
Can I add one thing on that?
Yes.
I agree that many people have come up via that way, and they've managed to get themselves commissioned to do all sorts of different things, whether it's joke writing, whether it's writing journalism, whether it's all sorts of things.
Books as well, all sorts.
It is a lesson to all of us, by the way, and we can all, that it's good not to have all your eggs in one basket. It is good to have real relationships with people that you can feel you can contact outside the platform.
Wait! All your eggs in one basket. Sorry, I just had to.
So sorry.
Do you know what? If I didn't say it, I was going to literally explode.
No, well, we would have had to edit it in. I think
we would have had to.
It's that good.
So yes, all your eggs. I'm so sorry. All your eggs in one basket.
It's good not to have all your eggs in one basket. It's good to be diversified in terms of how you are able to get work, and it's always good to be able to have personal relationships with people that are not social media personal relationships, that you can actually sort of send them a message that's outside of that, or you can call them, or you can do whatever it is, but email them. And I mean, all the old-fashioned ways of it, rather than just thinking I have to do everything via this platform, because
100%. But it's been useful in times if you're somebody who's not going to travel to London or where the media is, that you can get yourself known. That was an incredibly useful thing. And of course, all those people's relationships are now in the real world, which is very
but also
helpful.
You can go to TikTok and you can do it that way in lots of other ways.
And
that's what people are doing.
That's the point, is this whole thing about Twitter. And you think Twitter is for old people.
Yeah.
I mean, it just
my favourite thing is, like, don't forget to register to vote. It's like, by the way, if they follow you on this platform, believe me, they're registered to vote. Or people talking about their sort of GCSE results. I didn't do well on my GCSEs and I'm fine. Nobody doing their GCSEs follows you. Let me tell you this right now. And it's extraordinary.
The only message you should ever give on Twitter is, don't forget you have to retake your driving test at 80.
Yeah. Have you got the carbon monoxide alarm for the boiler? Have you just like boring little household, these are the ones.
But it's, I see what it is. There's a certain bit of left-leaning media for whom Twitter's been just a lovely warm bath for a really, really long time. Lots of people met very good friends on there. Lots of people, as I say, built careers on there. There's been such, watching along with anything, like the Olympic closing ceremony on Sunday. It's always been fun to do.
But they liked to fight on there too. And they did. They enjoyed fighting. They changed nobody's minds, I don't really think. But they enjoyed fighting. And actually, I've mentioned him before, Jaron Lanier, who's a really sort of interesting kind of internet prophet and a bit of a Cassandra on lots of these things. And there's a good book he wrote, which is very slim, called 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts Right Now. And it really clearly explains the OG for social media platforms are about keeping people angry because then they stay on the platform longer. They actually are not staying on because of the warm bath, actually. They are staying on, and they know this, and there's been tons of research done that you stay on the platform if you're angry, and you stay on it longer. And so what they really always want to do is make you cross and show you content that either makes you, and their algorithms are going to push you towards things that just keep you on longer.
If you've ever tried to use Twitter for politics, then it's not having an impact, because in Britain, politics is all on Facebook. I don't think it has a huge influence on things like the riots, because that's all on Telegram and that's on Facebook.
I certainly think that's the case. And I think that people thinking this has happened because of social media. If we turn this into a social media story, I'm afraid it'll keep on happening. That isn't the story. And we've seen this in lots of different ways since I suppose the big political shocks of 2016. I do think that foreign states meddle in our
Yes.
politics, and I do think that obviously social media is one way to do it, but I don't think that that's why Brexit happened. And there's a huge cope in all of this where people are just thinking, oh, something awful's happened and I need to sort of either litigate it away or explain it away via Russian interference. People just can't really face the fact that people voted for that. In the same way, I'm sure there was some interference in the American election, but it's nothing like what some people wish to think, the other American election of 2016, which gave Trump his first term. And if Trump's coming back this time, again, it's not because of social media. And it might help people to think that this is why, and it's a useful bogeyman. But I actually think that the causes of it are something much deeper. And as I say, it's a bit of a cope saying it's all to do with social media, because it's not.
Well, I'll say two things. Firstly, Marina has rubles sticking out of her pockets. Someone's a shill. All right, comrade. And secondly, I think that all of us tend to think the world looks a bit more like us than it actually does. And we think that the world looks like the people around us a bit more than it does. And even those people who say, yes, I understand I'm in a bubble, but I get a rough idea of what Britain is and who lives in Britain. And I think that, I'll tell you who lives in Britain, Twitter and Facebook. That's who, just so you know, that's who lives. These are the people you're amongst. That's why it's so hard to win an election. These are the people you are amongst. You are not amongst people like you who are talking the way you do to the people that you do about the things that you do. You're living in this space where everything is, stuff being knocked back and forth and, knee-jerk reactions and people just, hearing information for the first time and reacting in the first way that they want to react. And I think that's upsetting to people to see how sort of random a democracy is.
But there's a grandeur to a lot of these people who... a lot of these people saying, I'm going to leave now. I think, yeah, but you're the sort of people who used to say, would tag in like their washing machine delivery people who hadn't turned up that day, or tag in, British Airways, where's my bags? I've seen MPs do that. I have. And it's like, I
did that once for my makeup artist because they lost her entire bag, which is
if you did it on behalf of someone else using your vast following for good, Richard, then that's great.
And that's her livelihood. That's her tools.
But I've seen a lot of people, yes, that's of course, but people just trying to use their own follow accounts and clout in order to get their, washing machine to turn up a bit quicker, or to sort of like get angry with Virgin Mobile for something. I honestly, these are the same people now trying to explain that they're like taking some lofty moral position. Do me a favour.
So what do you think the alternative is for people who either A, want to find a way to monetize their creativity, or B, just enjoy the fellow feeling and the friendship groups that they've made on a Twitter? Do you think there's
just
an alternative?
Get a WhatsApp group for your friends. Honestly, this is incredible. Most people do this. No one is going to cancel you in your WhatsApp group. You can make much more amusing jokes. Just do all that. And if you want to get noticed as a creative, obviously TikTok. But if you do wish to leave Twitter, I by all means don't feel the need to make a huge announcement about it. You can just sign off. Like, we're just going to end this article now, right now. So
yeah.
You can just sign off without saying anything at all.
Yeah, that's the cool thing to do. And I hear Threads is perfectly nice. I hear Blue Sky is perfectly nice. But also, you could just not be on it at all and see what happens, I would say. And listen, I give that advice to someone who's not leaving it. But if you do choose to leave it, if it is too upsetting for you, if you do find it too difficult, there's a way in which you could just not be on it.
Yeah, just log off.
Here's me being kind and gentle, and there's you going, just log off. That's good. It's like
is it such bad advice?
It's like two completely different types of therapist, and you know within the first session which one works for you. But like for everyone,
they keep coming back to you because you're telling them what they want to hear.
No,
whereas I'm curing them.
Yeah. And talking of internet profits, that's the other thing people say, look, but you're making money for Elon Musk. I tell you one thing that Twitter's not doing, and that's making money for Elon Musk.
It's at least half the value of the company.
Yeah.
Scott Galloway, who's a brilliant sort of entrepreneur and professor, and maybe some of you listen to one of his many and brilliant podcasts like Pivot or something like that. But so like there's never been a case of a company that's losing like this not in a war.
Yeah, I think he said it's literally the worst performing company in history.
Yeah, and the main thing is that people don't want to advertise on it. Now, Elon Musk, who said not so long ago to companies who didn't want to advertise, go fuck yourselves, now is literally trying to take them to court in Texas for not advertising on his platform. Good luck with that. You're going to sue people, for private companies, for not advertising with you.
Yeah, he's suggesting that advertisers have joined together in some sort of consortium to wrong him, and he's suing them in a, I'm going to say, a very friendly court in Wichita Falls in Texas with and the judge is a major Tesla shareholder.
Well, even so, good luck with that. This is just, it's just a waste of it's just another waste of his money. It's never going to work. But another thing, I mean, speaking of which, Twitter was particularly important for a time because the free world was sort of run off it by Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And he used it all the time. He was banned after the January the 6th insurrection. And then when Musk took over, he said he can come back. But Donald Trump hasn't gone back. He's sort of corralled himself on his own Truth Social platform. Musk failed at this point in the election still to persuade Trump to come back. And if he were back on it, then the platform would mean a lot more because it would still be about this sort of use and wielding of power, which it isn't really now.
Yeah.
I mean, the most powerful man on the platform is the guy who owns it,
I know.
who slightly humiliatingly seems to be going on as a kind of understudy to Trump and trying to be. He's like a poor man's Trump.
Oh my God, it's sort of haunting.
Yeah, it's really
to see. Honestly, if people 20 years ago had found him funny, just say you're a funny guy. Honestly, that's good. That's a good gag. And he wouldn't need to do any of this. He's just trying to prove himself. He wants to prove himself. Listen, he's a smart guy, but he wants to prove himself smarter than everybody else. He's not a funny guy.
He's not smart at this.
Oh no, he's better. But unless he is going, well, look, I can lose 20 billion. I've got it to lose. I'm not going to run out of money at any point. What I don't have is this sort of forum where I can stand up and everyone has to tell me how brilliant I am all the time, which is obviously the actions of a Superman arch villain. But that, I mean, if you've got 20 billion and you want to be the most listened to person in the world, then that's the job he's done. But to answer the original question, I mean, I still use it. I don't use it anything like as often as I used to. I've certainly, anytime something comes along my timeline that I'm like, this is grifting, pure and simple, I mute it instantly. I'll try and tweet nice things, and there's still plenty of.
I've never blocked or muted anyone on Twitter. Not one single person.
Wow.
I like to see it all.
Do you see? I don't. I can't handle it. I'm very bad with conflict. I'm very, very bad with. I just can't do it. I like to do something about it. I don't like it just to be washing over me 24 hours a day. I can't handle that, and so I've erased it from my timeline. There's plenty. I can find conflict wherever I want to find it. That sounds bad. You know what I mean? I don't need for it to be algorithmically and sent to me by Russian bots. I can find it in the real world.
I feel Aristophanes' first mention on the podcast. Maybe I can't remember.
Aristophanes.
Yeah. To be insulted by you is to be garlanded with lilies.
Wow.
I feel I should have that as my bio.
That's a nice one. To be insulted by you is to be garlanded by lilies. Oh, with lilies. There we go. That's good. Yeah. First time on the podcast.
First time on
not
the podcast.
The last. We should interview Aristophanes.
He's a very, very funny guy.
Yeah. Oh my God, he's a funny guy. So I would say that, listen, Musk is not making any money out of this thing. No one really in the real world is listening to Twitter, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. It is still a powerful force in other countries, but listen, the world is happening on Facebook and TikTok and Telegram and in other places, and Twitter is it's like remembering sitting watching Saturday night BBC One television with your family in the 1970s. It's sort of, and it's the ruins of that essentially.
Yeah, I think it's always useful to think that these places reflect the world much more than they create and shape it. This episode is presented by our friends at Sky, proud partners of The Rest is Entertainment.
Can we talk a little bit about the incredible range of documentaries that Sky show?
Please, I love a good documentary.
There's an incredible one called Klitschko, More Than a Fight, which is about Vitaly Klitschko, former world boxing heavyweight champion, currently mayor of Kyiv.
And that comes out on the 15th of August, and it draws on a whole wealth of archive, personal footage, new interviews to tell both brothers' story.
If you love true crime, there's a new documentary called The Body Next Door, which is out now. A really, really fascinating case, a fascinating crime, and a very well-made documentary. But can I save the best to last? The best for me, anyway, which is a documentary that's currently shooting, will be coming up soon. I have just one word for you: darts. The whole world is obsessed with Luke Littler, this incredible 17-year-old The world of darts is so extraordinary, amazing characters, characters you don't quite get in any other sport. If you
I think it's fair to say.
So yeah, it's a drive to survive for darts, and Sky are currently filming that, and I literally cannot wait.
An absolute banker there.
So immerse yourself in the world's most captivating stories with award-winning documentaries from Sky.
We're now going to talk about Katy Perry. Now, Katy Perry was, I want to say, once the biggest pop star in the world, but it's a little bit like being the world #1 in tennis, that you can possibly have never won a Grand Slam. But she had 5 #1 singles in a row, which I think is still the record.
Yeah.
But,
five #1 singles from the same album. She's
sorry.
the only woman ever to do that. Michael Jackson did it as well, but she's the only woman ever to do it.
From the same album, right? Now, she's taken a break. She's become a mother. She's been one of the judges on American Idol for about 7 seasons, roughly. Don't quote me on that. But she's now decided to leave that and return to supposedly her first love, music. She's got a new album coming next month, 143, or 143. I don't even know how you say it yet, and that might be part of it.
14-3, I'm hearing.
14-3.
It's named after the France versus New Zealand rugby league score in 1979.
She had a comeback single called Woman's World, which failed to chart but got a huge amount of negative attention for reasons we will come to. And she's sort of been wedged into that failure narrative now, like where almost everything she does feeds into the idea that it isn't working. She's got another single that has just come out called Lifetimes, which is a sort of attempt to buy some off-the-peg club music.
Oh,
and
the
video.
That's the music I like.
And is anyway, the video's sort of set in Ibiza and what have you. Now, it's interesting to talk about what has gone wrong and what can be put right.
Because, as I say, this is a woman who's absolutely at the top of her game, seemed to be in control of absolutely everything, was, as I say, took a break, did lots of interesting things, came back at a time where female-led music is absolutely dominating the charts. So there's an opportunity for her to come back and be Lady Gaga, but she's come back and it seems to have all gone away from her.
I think it's difficult. The first single, Woman's World, was this kind of calamitous girl boss feminism word salad that was, when you think of the summer that we've been talking about, people like Charlie XCX, all these kind of young stars coming through, it just seemed so old-fashioned and it almost like it was a sort of parody, which we'll come to what she said about it. And the reaction was really swift and horrible. It was also, lots of her albums were, her early albums, her really big success was produced by Dr. Luke. Now, Kesha, a former Dr. Luke artist, accused Dr. Luke of sexually assaulting her and physically and verbally abusing her for a decade. We should say that no charges were brought, but it's something that's caused a huge sort of ruckus in music. Whilst he is responsible for loads of Katy Perry's most successful albums, to go back with him and then especially in some sort of faux feminist message or real feminist message. Anyway, I don't know who her publicist is, but can I just say they are terrible because it went so badly wrong. She had all this opprobrium sort of tipped all over on the internet. And then she issued a statement retrospectively claiming that it was satire. I'm going to read the statement because it's very special. With this set, it's like, we're not about the male gaze, but we really are about the male gaze. And we're really overplaying it, which is like a reset for me and a reset of my idea of the feminine divine. Well, you just made it worse.
Wow.
Sometimes it's not the disaster, it is the attempt to cover up the disaster. And saying that it was satire, which was no. And saying it in that way, you just didn't get that it was about her reset of the feminine divine. What was it called? Yeah, the feminine divine.
Yes, interesting. She seems stuck on post-feminism, where the world has not only gone on to post-feminism, I think we're now on post-feminism. And so she's 2 posts behind.
First of all, and I know you mentioned Lady Gaga earlier, and there's people like Cher who can go off and do it and go act, but then very few. I think we want still to believe that musicians have to be musicians, that they can't do anything else because they are artists and they have to sing and they have to make music. Now, if you take a long period out and go and be a television judge on a show that I don't think anyone would really claim is particularly about the music, and then you sort of say, right, I'm coming back to music, I think there's a world where maybe if you don't take your fans with you with an amazing song, people just think, oh, I see, you've come to look at this quadrant of your media empire, have you?
Yeah, I mean, authenticity is everything, whether you're genuinely authentic or your PR are very good at faking your authenticity. And the acts that are huge today, that we talked about many of them before, but we could have someone like Billie Eilish. there is an authenticity that feels real. And I was thinking exactly that, to come off 8 seasons of American Idol and to come back and say, no, I'm here to save pop music. It's tricky. You have to really come back with a banger. And she has not come back with another Titanium or Raw.
No.
And, you really have to. I'll say this for her, that time out that she had, and you think, oh, I don't know, has that ruined your career, having that time out? In the last 8 years, she sold her music rights. Okay, she sold her music rights for $225 million. She had a residency in Vegas, which
was very successful.
Very successful, earned her $148 million. And for being a judge on American Idol, she got paid about $200 million. So there's $500 million she's made in the last 8 years, which might hopefully just soften her landing.
That's who she is now. I don't think we believe these people as the women in their videos anymore. It's hard to, someone like Taylor Swift has somehow managed to make herself extremely relatable. But I saw this morning, she was photographed getting onto, friend of the podcast, Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos' yacht.
No.
And I just thought, yeah, you're in your stage of your life where you're going on the boat with Jeff Bezos. I mean, you can you imagine Charlie XCX doing that? No, of course we can't.
Charlie,
no.
I can imagine Charlie on that yacht.
Yeah.
But Charlie XCX, no.
Just having fun, having a wrecking party of it and then leaving. Sorry, Jeff, send me the bill. But you're sort of in the persona era of your career if you're a musician of questionable commitment to the art of music, as I would say, as Katy Perry is. It reminds me a little bit of J-Lo, who had something similar this year. She self-financed a documentary called This Is Me Now, which people sort of laughed about, and that cost her 20 million. But, you can't self-finance something for 20 million if you don't have 20 million lying around.
Yes,
so
exactly.
She's not doing too badly. And then she released the album, which didn't do well. And then she then announced a tour, an arena tour for this album. And nobody bought tickets. Yeah. So they then said, it's going to be more of a greatest hits arena tour. And everyone was still like, remind me, did the J-Lo hits? She's always, to some extent, felt overvalued as a music star, even though she's done very well. And I'm sure she does loads of really lucrative private gigs, etc., etc. But she's not going to sell out an arena tour. And in the end, they had to pull the arena tour. But like we're saying, she is a movie star, big movie star, particularly on Netflix, where her movies might get panned, but they are...
J-Lo, this is.
Yeah, this is J-Lo. Her movies might get panned, but something like that. Atlas was #1 for how many weeks? Yeah. And she's got lots of things coming. She's got Kiss the Spider Woman coming out. She's done very well as an actress, and she's got an alcohol brand of some type or another.
That's a good idea.
But this is what
more celebrities should do that.
Yeah, but they're you're in your persona years now. You're diversified into a number of different revenue streams. And you do talk about them like revenue streams, and you don't talk about the art anymore. And that's what you do. And unless you are so committed to one particular avenue, someone like Madonna, who continues to make music, continues to tour, nobody ever says, I don't think she's interested in it. People might say, well, if she likes the attention, well, so what? I mean, she remains the person that she always was. She doesn't strike people as someone who's gone into 5 or 6 different things. But that's not to say that going into 5 or 6 different things isn't good business. And I'm sure Katy Perry's business manager is a lot better than her publicist. I can see they are.
But I think it's most important is if you're going to have a good business manager or a good publicist, always choose a good business manager.
Yeah. Well, the business manager can tell you to fire the publicist at some point, and surely must have at this point in this summer. I don't know if she really cares that much about music and being anything. She obviously doesn't need to work again. But people miss the attention. I personally would not have, if I had been her publicist or her agent, have had her leave American Idol until the album had been a real hit, because otherwise she should have left to go and front some new show or something, some other quadrant. Something should have happened, but at the moment it seems like she's shut the door on a very successful television judge career, and this is tanked. Now, she's been asked to perform at the VMAs, the MTV Video Music Awards, I think they're next month, and that will be there's a lot riding on that performance. But
you know what? She performed at Joe Biden's inauguration. She performed at the King's coronation. I mean, she's...
exactly. I mean, she performs. She does private gigs for really old guys now.
Yeah, but and there's a lot of money in it. Yeah, and it's a question of can you have your cake and eat it? And it looks like you can't. All the people at the top of the pop charts at the moment, as you say, are either younger and just fully on it, or they're the older generation who've always committed to what it is that they do. And there is a world that you can get into where celebrity meets billionaires. and you can get lost in that world. And listen, I mean, that's okay. You're allowed to. You're allowed to go on yachts and this, that, the other. But you can't do that and then come back and say, I've got this relevant, fresh new single about feminism. Because
you're not an artist. I mean, honestly, you're not. Really, you're not. And if you don't write your own songs, which she mostly doesn't, you've got to assume that people who do write songs and who do write hits, and there are many of them, want to give it to a young, fresh artist and want to give it to them rather than someone who is maybe not going to turn it into a hit. And there's and it's because I think that there is a sense amongst various different fandoms. She needs some Gen Z fans, and she actually needs some Gen Alpha fans, because
what's Gen Alpha?
That's younger.
No.
Yes.
Oh my God. Enough generations already.
Well, they're going to keep coming. Sorry.
Really? How does that work? Let's just, you know what? Let's have a moratorium for 5 years. No more generations.
No more generations to arrive. But you need those generations, and they will come out and see you perform and buy your stuff. And I don't really have the sense that she's got that.
I mean, what she has ahead of her, of course, is that lovely, you can then become a legacy act who people adore if you, if you bide your time now for a little while and, do your UN ambassador stuff. You come back suddenly with like a big Tina Turner-esque like smash, and everyone loves Katy Perry again. But a hard environment for her to come back in at the moment. Never been a better time for female-led pop music and this incredible sort of energy around all of that. She tried to parachute into it, and very, very interesting that she's been deflected.
The parachute did not open.
The parachute didn't open, but she landed on $500 million. So she walked away unscathed.
It's a cushion.
Yeah.
Okay, now, finally, I think we're going to talk about MrBeast.
Yes.
MrBeast, Jimmy Donaldson, 26. He's the world's most successful YouTuber. He's got north of 300 million subscribers on YouTube. He recently did a deal with Amazon to bring, I suppose what they want is his audience to come to Amazon, and they've paid him $100 million to create a show which is going to be called Beast Games. We don't really know much about it at the moment. It's going to have, above it's going to have the biggest prize in history. I think it's going to have $5 million prize. And we know it involves very large numbers of contestants.
Yeah, I know a few things about it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Just from insiders. But nothing particularly special. But the most interesting thing, of course, is it's been mired in controversy already. Like anything, when the second there's a weird sort of world in YouTube where legacy media won't touch you because they're kind of fine. In fact, if they write about you, it's slightly in awe because they don't understand it. The second you come onto their patch and you're making like a regular television program, they're like, oh, making a regular television program, are you? Wow, I might just write.
Well, now I'm going to have a look at you. This is what I mean, a lot of people, when they originally came to bid for this show, and other companies were also in for it, I'm told that Ted Sarandos was just like, a Netflix co-CEO of Netflix was just like, I don't know. I mean, no one's really had a proper look at this guy yet because he's a YouTuber, and YouTubers don't get scrutinized in the same way. By the way, I should just give you a few little stats about MrBeast. He brings in about $700 million a year, so $700 million a year. Until
that's
about
Katy Perry money.
Yeah, till about 5 minutes ago, his mum, Sue, was their compliance officer.
Wow, good name for a compliance officer, Sue.
Yeah, just talk to Sue. And he's got his philanthropy channel where he does these huge stunts and huge giveaways to people. That loses money. The gaming channel, MrBeast Reacts, where it's him and his friends, that makes a lot of money because it's honestly just watching some people play computer games. I've watched huge amounts of it in my time, vicariously via my children, I should add. And he's got his Feastables, which is his chocolate business is mega. He's like sort of a Wonka of some sort.
Yes. He's a what, sorry?
A Wonka of some sort. And he is operating out of Greenville still, North Carolina. And he's got on his walls, he's got a picture of Elon Musk dressed as Napoleon and Steve Jobs. These are his heroes. He's obsessed with growth. He's got a great big room full of cash because he's constantly giving cash away to people. And he has, pulled off this phenomenal growth. It is unbelievable. There's no one like it on the platform. There's no one close. And he has become this extraordinary, huge figure. And obviously these channels wanted to try and get him in so they could bring the audience. But he has started to become beset by more of the sort of scandals that you might see at other companies. Chris Tyson, who is a former member of his team, who was one of the very, very earliest childhood friends, who's now Ava Chris Tyson. Now there's a grooming scandal there. No charges have been brought, but they're saying that Ava Chris Tyson groomed this young fan.
And Ava has left the company.
Has left with immediate effect. So we'll wait to see what happens there. But Beast Games, elements of it were being filmed in Nevada recently. There were 2,000 contestants. You had to put 5 days of underwear in a Ziploc bag, give them any medication you needed. You can already see where this is going. I think people didn't necessarily get their underwear, and some people didn't get their medication. It is reported by the New York Times. Everyone had to, we're finding a bit more out about how they work as a company. It's reported that if you paid $1,000, you got $1,000 extra if you signed away any right to a future class action.
Yeah.
People have complained about MrBeast things before, but again, as you said, Richard, people don't really take a notice because lots of people in the legacy media don't watch YouTube, and they're not really aware it's happening, and they have no idea that this guy is bigger than anybody they possibly could imagine on their legacy channel.
Another thinking, great, we've got a target. Yeah, just to speak to that contract that people signed, the contract clause says, I understand that such activities may cause me death, illness, or serious bodily injury, starting with death there, including but not limited to exhaustion, dehydration, overexertion, burns, and heat stroke.
I think quite a lot of those things are reported to have happened.
By the way, that is actually a fairly standard line in a contract of that sort of thing, if you're making a Survivor or something like that. So I was reading all this stuff. Now, two interesting things. Firstly, the show he sold to Amazon has 1,000 contestants. Okay, that's the show he sold. So this whole thing in Nevada is essentially a pre-show, which I'm guessing he owns.
He does.
I'm guessing that's on his channel, where he's got 2,000 people. So 2,000 people come down to Nevada to qualify to be in the biggest game show of all time. And by the way, everyone who got knocked out got $1,000. So he's giving £1 million away already to people who are just doing this pre-show show to the Amazon show. So there are large amounts of money involved here. The latest video he did was survive 100 days in a nuclear bunker and win $500,000. Okay, we know what MrBeast does. If you sign up for his show, you know what he does.
I watched
as well.
this at the weekend. It's brilliantly done.
It's great.
They're 20 minutes. These things. They're such high production values and such high cost and outlay for something that is 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and that's more than if you're making a sitcom on Channel 4 now. It's going to cost less than $500,000 to make a run of a sitcom with all those people and all that crew and all everything. This is one little 20-minute video.
Exactly that. I mean, it is crazy. So there are issues. People are saying, oh, we had heat stroke, we had exhaustion. It sounds to me like it was just a regular, you've got 2,000 people in a stadium. Statistically, some people are not going to be particularly well. I think they filmed it during the CrowdStrike outage as well.
They did. They say that.
Thing.
And I must say, it's quite new that we've got these kind of Squid Game, the challenge. We also saw some stories like this emerge. This is very new, this idea of doing shows with, 1,000 contestants. This doesn't really happen on, blankety blank.
Yes, no, you're quite right. Listen, it's a big happening. It's like a big live event.
Yeah.
And at big live events, of course, there are all sorts of issues. Now, he is someone who's not put together a huge show like this before, and this is the pre-show show as well. The actual show, I know for a fact, the showrunner is a brilliant person who's done all sorts of shows like this. They're in fairly safe hands when it comes to the actual show. I was talking to somebody involved in it. They said the sets that they are building, said I've never seen sets like this in a TV studio in my life. And they say the one thing that MrBeast is saying constantly to them, which if you say to an experienced TV producer, actually is very freeing. They're saying the most important part of this challenge, however long this challenge goes on for them, the single most important part is the first 15 seconds. He said, like, after 15 seconds, people are either in or out. So, the people making the show, that's what they understand about how to do these challenges. They got a huge amount of money to spend on incredible contraptions and incredible things, and they have to hit people right between the eyes within 15 seconds, and they got this enormous prize. So I think it's going to be great. And I think a lot of the stuff around the production of this show is just stuff that happens when you have 1,000 people in a stadium in Las Vegas. I'm sure there were issues, and I'm sure there's payouts and what have you, but it's a large amount of people doing something. What's going to be bigger for MrBeast is the stuff you were talking about before, which is looking back through his old tweets, finding him using discriminatory language. And that's something that hasn't come out, even though he's sort of built himself into one of the biggest moguls in the world, because he's a mogul in a world that's felt completely untouchable.
And not understood by the old moguls.
And now he is definitively touchable.
Yeah, I would say that there's a few. This is a culture clash in lots of ways. You can read people who've worked with him who say, oh, he really doesn't like people being called things like production assistants. They're called friends of friends because it's too like legacy. It makes it sound too industry. And they don't really believe in lots of forms of health and safety because they've never done it that way. And why should they? And they fundamentally believe they know more about this than these kind of ailing television
Also, they
giants.
do.
They do.
They did Squid Game without getting the rights. There are things they do that if you have a proper lawyer and stuff that you don't do.
Well, they are now getting a proper lawyer and all sorts of other
yes,
things.
I saw they were advertising. This is when you, I mean, listen, you just have to look at a job advert and go, okay, that's interesting. I wonder what's up at this company. They are advertising for a chief HR officer. And they've just implemented mandatory sensitivity training.
Sorry, also a chief financial officer and a general counsel. Okay, something happened here. I wonder what it was.
It's not. We need 8 more creatives.
And they've got a veteran crisis PR, not like some. Hey, I'm a YouTube crisis PR. It's like, oh, you're one of the ones that the old guys use.
Also, no panic, but we could use a doctor.
Yeah. Now, there's lots of things about this that it's a non-unionized show, and I think that's significant and worth saying that IATSE, the below the line technicians and crew union, have warned their members to stay away from this because they say they don't think it's operating safely. This is very much that kind of grind, new media culture, the tech culture. They're doing 6 or 7 day work weeks, which is why you can't get unionized crew. There are, I think it's fair to say that there are lots of those shows in the old days, everything from Big Brother to Survivor to everything, worked out that if people need regular medication, you don't have to say it, but maybe don't book them on the show because it is a recipe for disaster. And rather than thinking, not knowing those sort of things, not wargaming backwards from worst case scenarios, is the mark of someone we should say that MrBeast, whilst you're talking to me about the producer, they did want to do it. They wanted to have full control of it. And the only way they would sign the deal is if they had full control of it, which is why some of the other players fell out and didn't of the bidding and decided not to go ahead with it. Yeah, but Amazon were giving them full control.
Yes, I mean, you would hope that he's smart enough, and everything he's done so far, it seems that he's fairly smart, that he would understand that if you're making a legacy media show, probably best to have someone at least on your right hand side who's made a legacy TV show before. And that's the vibe I get from the set is that people are doing the job they've always done, but they're learning new ways of doing it. And when that happens, when those two worlds collide, either you get something which is a terrible mishmash that nobody's interested in, or you get something incredibly new that changes TV forever. So I think both of those scenarios are still on the table.
Another thing that's worth talking about, I think, is do Amazon care about this, the stories that have come out? We know that in lots of ways they don't care in the same way that, I don't know, clearly the BBC would have to care, or, NBC would have to care in the US if stories like this came out. But the head of Amazon Studios, Jennifer Salk, they did their first ever presentation for advertisers last year. And now this is really sort of significant. And he was right at the centre of this. MrBeast Games was right at the centre. They wanted, they're way behind, we should say, in streaming. Amazon, I can't remember what
they're like about a third of YouTube and about a third of
they're about
Netflix.
a third. They're about a
so
third.
Netflix and YouTube are 10%ish, and Amazon about 3%ish.
They said it was going to be very expensive to advertise on this show, but you could have your product integrated within it. They were going to do all sorts of new and innovative things that were very, very expensive. It's interesting to see whether what advertisers will feel. I think they will see the finished product if it's good and think, I don't care about any of those stories. It doesn't matter. Much in the same way as you saw that with these large crowd games like Squid Game, The Challenge, it ended up being brilliant and people didn't mind. But it's interesting how central he was to her pitch to advertisers for the first time they've ever done this. And so you want to say to advertisers have to feel confident, and this is part of the problem with Twitter is that do you want your product advertised next to this stuff? Not really. If it's so, it will have to prove itself, this show, we should say. But I still think it can be huge for them. Yeah,
and it's mind-bogglingly expensive to advertise on this show. The rates are mind-bogglingly expensive, especially, as you say, to feature in-game, which MrBeast is incredibly good at. One really amazing thing, the way that everyone at the... and listen, I'm sure this wasn't a master plan, but it's brilliant. Everyone's saying, we were like really hungry because like the games were going on so long and we hadn't been fed. And then someone gave us Feastables chocolate bars, and then they filmed us eating them. Like, okay, so you gave like a load of starving people a chocolate bar and then filmed them going, oh my God, this is amazing. That's great. Listen, I'm sure that's not what they did, but I'd love to see the advert.
Yes, I'm sure it is what they did as well. I'm.
Don't forget they've now got an in-house lawyer, so don't say that.
They haven't quite yet.
Oh, haven't they not?
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen to Sue, the compliance officer, brackets mum.
Yeah, poor
But
Sue.
yeah, she'll maybe be given some actual brackets in one of those jobs that's, chief investigations officer or something.
Yeah, production assistant.
Yeah.
And that's us, I think, this week, isn't it?
I think that's us. What about some recommendations?
Recommendations. Well, can I say one thing firstly, which is we're just announcing the audiobook reader for We Solve Murders, which is very exciting. Who's the wonderful Nicola Walker.
Oh,
so I'm so excited.
That's
she's
fantastic.
Doing it from The Unforgotten and a million other things. One of our very finest and funniest actors.
She is terrific.
So she's done the audiobook of We Solve Murders. I think there's little clips online, or there will be today, of her reading stuff out. So that's lovely, isn't it? So that's nice. I've done that. Recommendation?
I would like to recommend this is a hard watch, by the way, but I think it's absolutely extraordinary. It's on BBC 4. It's a series called Corridors of Power: Should America Police the World? And it's documentaries. The documentary maker Draw Moria has assembled this extraordinary cast of talking heads to talk about these interventions that America made in the spirit of never again after the genocide of World War II. And as I say, the footage, there's a lot of this footage, which, and as a general rule, I will do anything to avoid seeing terrible footage from around the world in these desperate war zones and places where we think genocide might be happening. But within this context, it's probably the best context if you're ever going to have to force yourself to watch these things, which in some ways I think we have to. It's amazing. In retrospect, so much of my opinions on these things, because you know how Iraq turned out, or certainly in the medium term, and you know how Bosnia turned out. And my views on lots of these people had sort of calcified into the people who made those decisions into very simplistic, black and white, often villainous views. And to hear them talking about their emotions and how they went through, how they reached these difficult decisions, is extraordinary, and you end up with something so much more nuanced. But it is a very difficult watch in lots of ways, but I can't recommend it enough. I think it's brilliant.
I'm going to recommend an iPlayer thing as well, which is To the World's End, Tales from a London Bus. And it just goes, the 31 bus from Camden down to World's End in Chelsea, but stops at various points. And it's in the early 80s. And some of the people who it talks to is an incredible Irish woman in Kilburn, an incredible young girl in Ladbroke Grove as well. It's just slice of life type stuff. It's 15 minutes long, I think, or one off, and it's so beautiful of a sort of a time that's lost. But also,
I was on the 31 bus this morning.
No way!
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Okay,
wow.
I'll watch that definitely.
It's really, really good. I really, really love that. So Nicola Walker doing the audiobook. Lots and lots of lovely recommendations.
And please send us your questions for the questions edition of this show, which will be on Thursday. The rest is entertainment@gmail.com.
Yes, thank you for all your questions. And next week on this show, we'll talk a little bit about our friend Steven Spielberg as well. How about that?
All right,
exciting.
then. See you Thursday.
See you Thursday, everyone.